Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you for joining us for another exciting conversation. And you are going to love our guest today. I know every one of our guests are amazing. Today, our conversation is going to be about purposefully designing your future. Think about what's going on in the world around us. ChatGPT, McDonald's opening a fully automated fast food restaurant. Human skills are being replaced by robotics, artificial intelligence, and evolving technology. How are we as parents and teachers grooming the youth? And how are we shaping our next generation? And in that process of grooming and shaping the next generation, how are we able to understand and become centered on our own purpose as parents, as teachers, as professionals, so that we become role models to the youth we're responsible for? What are the toolkits necessary to build and live a relevant life that is focused on purpose? How can we dare to evolve and continually drive success in our roles? And what allows us to transform with authenticity so that we can lead our life and influence our youth in a meaningful way? Those are mission critical conversations that we need to have. And to have this amazing conversation with me is my collaborative partner, Dr. Charlotte Allen. Charlotte, welcome. Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you, Cass. I'm really excited to be here and super, super excited about this topic that I know we both have a ton of passion for.
Absolutely. So you and I, in our separate ways, have been working on helping individuals live their purpose and transform so that they evolve and remain relevant, right? And we have also worked with youth and young professionals and high school students in order to help them get to where they need to get to, both in our families and professionally. How do you feel about where we are today? And what is it going to take for parents and teachers to be the kind of leaders to help children navigate these uncharted waters?
Mm-hmm. So I think that parents always, from the beginning of the time of parents, right, have had a challenge to prepare their children, prepare them for the future, for the world. I believe that what is potentially different today is, of course, the speed of how everything is changing, because the parents are not in a position to know today's world as well. So it is difficult for them to then pass that expertise on. They are always still going to be the biggest and most important influence in the lives of their children. So how do they participate in that way when they're not as well prepared themselves, given the changes happening to everyone at the same time? So I believe that's one of the unique perspectives that we are facing as you set up this conversation, in how much is changing all at the same time. So I feel as though we're in a double unprepared scenario right now.
Very much so. And generationally, we know the younger generation always believes their parents are out of touch, right? I mean, that has historically been the case generation after generation. But this generation, because of the rate of change being so fast-paced, feels like the parents and children are light years away. And children understand the social media aspect of technology, but they don't understand the importance of STEM and applying STEM to all the professions and staying relevant, because not everything works like social media, right? So as a parent who is raising a young man who is getting ready to graduate and go off to college, what do you see and feel are things parents can do in order to stay the course of purposefully evolving, staying relevant, and transforming the life of the family?
So I think from what I've seen in all of the work I've done with youth, with parents, and in my own personal, at home parent of a teenager space, is that parents are really starving. Parents are gapped. Parents, they know they want to do well. They want to be there as mentors and coaches and to guide their children forward and to allow them to become these amazing adults with the amazing thing they're going to deliver to the world. I think that parents are starving though, because they can understand a bit about what happened, obviously, in their experience, but they're really gapped in how to navigate the importance of these technical elements of the world of the future while still remaining grounded in the fact that we are all human beings. We all have to have a purpose and to have that grounding. And the challenge today is I think that many parents are not grounded themselves, so that it is difficult for them to always share that grounding in the future for their children and prepare them for what the future will be. I think that's the unique scenario we're in as parents these days.
And I'm totally seeing and hearing what you're saying, and it's resonating for me, Charlotte. I am currently working with an entire batch of high school students, young men and women. And we are at the cusp of where parents are struggling to keep their head above water in their own professions as their work is evolving, right? Workplace of today is evolving because the future of work is still fluid. And then on the other hand, teachers are so focused on delivering the curriculum and meeting all the requirements and the assessments. Teachers are not evolving at the rate in which the world is evolving, right? Because their roles are very static in terms of the requirements they have to deliver. And the children are sitting in the middle asking the question. Just 2 days ago, I was in the classroom and the students are asking the teacher, everything you're saying makes sense, but how is it going to help me? Right. How is it going to help me? And that is the predominant question students are asking. And as we start delving into delivering our program on how to purposefully evolve and drive the kind of success we need for our youth and the next generation, how do you see us approaching teachers in addition to parents? Because teachers have to be those strategic partners to the parents.
Cass, it's a great question. And I think that teachers have an obligation based on their position to, as you say, deliver the curriculum. As a parent, I struggle sometimes with the overarching delivery of curriculum in absence of mentoring and coaching the youth and the high school students for their future. So I think that teachers are in another unique position, right? They are the second, probably most influential group to this youth population, and they themselves are struggling to figure this out. So I think that teachers, what has worked, I'll just start with this. What has worked for me and in our family is that I have been very deliberate and intentional about providing real world experiences, or maybe the way to phrase it is it's not that I'm encouraging work. I'm encouraging getting a job. I'm encouraging plugging into adult behaviors. I'm encouraging that you go to an industry meeting. I'm making sure that our son sees what the potential is. So to your point of how to make it real, I think that the schools, the teachers have a way, and they're very influential if we could do a bit more of a balance with what the curriculum requires and then overlay that with how the application works. Because even for me, that many years ago in high school, the application of what I was doing was something nobody talked about. So it has become something we can no longer ignore. We can no longer ignore that we have to do that. And I don't know what you're seeing as well within the teachers that you're working alongside of. But it's a challenge everywhere globally, I believe.
I hear you. I come from a different part of the world, and we were introduced to education through the Montessori system. So from 2.5 years old, we were introduced to experiential learning. The way I was introduced to math is the teacher takes all the young children, we were really kids, into this Montessori kitchen. And we were given recipes, and one group had to double the recipe, the other group had to triple the recipe. And math was fun because we got to eat it, right? And fast forward middle school and high school, our tests were not writing on paper. Our physics test, I will never forget. Our physics test was either taking us to the playground and putting us in groups and said, each group gather all the things you see in the yard that is movable, put it in this bag and bring it to the lab, physics lab. And we are going to create a toy. Each of you are going to create a toy, and you can be as creative as you want. You're going to create a toy and demonstrate to the rest of the class that sound travels through solids. So getting to learn science and math that way, it didn't make it scary. It didn't make it abstract, right? Trigonometry. Imagine your dog knows to do trigonometry. Imagine when you throw a frisbee, the dog knows the trajectory it's going to go and the speed at which and the angle at which he or she needs to run and how high it needs to jump to grab it. So if your dog does trigonometry, you instinctively know. How do you know at the pace at which to cross the street? How do you know don't cross now, you're going to get hit? So instinctively, you know, now let's apply the science behind it. So we always were taught from lived experience to the theory instead of theory and then go figure out the lived experience. So as a professor, that's how I teach. I teach finance, I teach data analytics to grown adults. And it's easier to take what they know and then overlay the theory. So statistics, I use cards, I use dice games. Everybody wants to get involved because they want to know how to beat their opponents at the next game, especially my military guys and my fire guys, right? So how do we help the teachers? I came out of that system. So for me, it's natural. But what I hear my peers say is, Cass, this is not how we learn. This is not how we function. It's hard for us to be rooted in the deliverables and start thinking about applications. What are some of the ideas we can share from your perspective to help teachers jump that threshold?
So, Kath, both you and I think, are very grounded in food as a community builder, as a family builder, as a way to connect people. And I believe that is one of, if not the best way for us to progress into the future as a more collaborative human race. So I think about that because I'm a food scientist, right? So I think about food and I watch my son, who is now taking a class in foods. And I believe there is a ton of math and science application that can be shared in something that every single person on this planet touches in one way or another. There is nobody unfamiliar with food. Even if you are in a area where food is not plentiful, you're still aware of food, right? So I think that we need to find some of those other commonalities that we all experience and tie that to how we teach and how we learn. And it is amazing to me that when I talk to my son's teachers about food science and about what it can be, they don't even know the profession exists. It is the largest employable industry in the US, and people don't know about it. It is shocking to me every time I think about that. So I think we need to find other common ground.
Absolutely. I am a believer that food is a conduit because food, music, and laughter are three things that attracts everybody, especially young people. I always have about 8 to 10 kids in my yard because they smell my food and they show up. And when food becomes the center, so many other things that can be overlaid. So one of the conversations I was having with my high school students last week is about thinking of food as a business, right? If you grow your food, then you can think of it as a business and you can start keeping track of how much are you contributing to your family's bottom line because you're reducing expenses. So we're teaching math, we're teaching finance, we're teaching business. And then we talked about if you are growing tomatoes and your friend next door is growing cucumbers, you figure out how many cucumbers do you need to give to exchange for tomatoes and vice versa. And you can barter. And if beyond the barter you have extra, then the both of you can open a stand in the street corner and sell some to earn some pocket money. How do you open a bank account? How do you manage the bank account? Now, all of a sudden, all of those economics, business skills, all of those elements, including sustainability. We had a conversation about cassava, the Spanish name. In Asia, we call it tapioca, how it contains cyanide in low doses. And it actually, if you use cassava flour, it becomes a cancer inhibitant. And I am taking care of my husband, who is a cancer patient, with food. And so talking about the value of food and the preventative nature, now we've incorporated biology, we've incorporated health science, we've incorporated business, we've incorporated nutrition. And all of a sudden it becomes a vibrant conversation, but it's integrated.
Yeah.
So how do we help teachers and parents start thinking of life from the youth's perspective as an integrated mechanism instead of individual items with individual deliverables? Because it's that disjointedness that creates frustration for young people.
Yeah, clearly there's some, how shall I say, skill gaps. Maybe skill gap isn't the right word, but as we both have seen, once you can experience it yourself, and you understand how to integrate, you understand how to not just take food and create a business or a bank account, but you can understand how to use some of these technical elements that are out there today coming at warp speed, which are things like the AIs, the ChatGPTs, the ways that we can create regenerative agriculture. So how do we help folks with the skills that are the gap? Because I believe, and I believe you do too, is once you have the skills, you can apply it and you understand how to apply it, it can work on any system, any problem that you have. And I think we as a society globally are gapped with these skills. So I believe that the teachers and the parents, right, and the youth, right, it's about teaching the skill and then showing them how to apply it to all of the problems they're going to face.
And I love where this conversation is going, Charlotte, because ultimately it's skills, capability, and talent, right? We can acquire the skills. We have to develop the capabilities utilizing those skills, but we also have to have the talent, right? So just because I can take the classes and I can build my ability to play the piano, I am not a talented pianist. I am never going to do that as a profession, but I can do that as a hobby. I can do that for fun, right? So one of the things I love about what we are doing is we help parents bridge that gap. We help teachers bridge that gap. And by bringing both the parents and the teachers in that bridged transformation process, we're truly giving that infrastructure and support system that the young folks need so that they grow up to be supported and they have a place to go and think about this, talk about this, and experiment with it. Experimentation is so important.
And that's really the key there, because we have many societies for where failure is not encouraged and for where it's blamed, and having that environment where they can experience an experiment, right? Which we all know we need failure to learn. So how can we help them do that in a structured format? How can we help them do that quickly so that their learning is also quick? And absolutely, we need to have that learning across. And I think it's important to note here that we are not creating a script and telling everyone they have to follow it, right? What we are teaching is how to establish a framework where you can find the things that work for you, and you can pull from a variety of things to address, maybe your oldest, child's needs and interests are different than your youngest. You can't use the same script with both of them. You're going to need to use the talents that you have, but adopt them differently. Same with the teacher. I mean, gosh, they'll have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of students across their professional life. They will need to pull on different skills to help those youth develop into thriving adults.
And the interesting aspect of teaching is the modern day classroom has both genders in the classroom, and young men of the same age is not as mature as the young women their age, right? Yep. So there is a maturity gap of 7-8 years from a psychological perspective, which makes the role of the teacher that much harder. Every time I walk into a middle school or high school classroom, the young ladies are quiet and mannered, and the young men are still playful. There's still that rambunctiousness in them. But getting angry at them will only exacerbate the situation. And it can't be about us when we are in the classroom. How do we integrate that maturity gap because of the way the classrooms are structured and still maintain the decorum of the class and get them engaged? To me, that is a challenge for teachers. And a lot of times teachers decide, you know what? I don't have the patience for this. I have an entire life. I have to raise my own children. Right. I don't get paid enough for this. I have to bring my own tools. I have to go and get my own continuing education with my own money. I'm just going to teach the curriculum, to have the students take the test, and I'm not going to worry about anything. What are you seeing, and how can we help the teachers in addition to giving them the tools and giving them the framework? What are other ways you see us helping them?
The first thing I want to add to your point about the psychological gap is that's literally a biological gap. So brain development, especially when you hit, and you see this as a parent of a teenager, you see that they all regress a bit. They start behaving a little bit more like toddlers. And that is completely normal as their brains develop. And we see the difference between, youth as the gender gap, as the men develop, the adult men develop sometimes 3 to 5 years fully later than the women. So it is a prefrontal cortex. It's how do we manage ourselves? It's how do we achieve that level of organization? So it's social, psychological, and biological. It's just the way things are. So I think as we think about the teachers, they need structure. They need to be able to understand how to fulfill themselves first, right? So I think the teachers don't see a path forward. They don't see a structure that will win for them. They are stuck between parent, teacher, and live my life to my fullest kind of person, who have an amazing job to do. I mean, the teachers of today have an amazing job and an amazing ability to impact the future. But they need support. They need the support to be able to help them not burn out, right? Otherwise, we don't have teachers, right, to bring our youth forward.
And that's something I hear every day, every time I walk into a school to work with the youth. The first thing I hear and the last thing I hear is thank you so much for coming in. We need this support. And you being here and partnering with you allows us to figure out new and different ways to do this, because if it's just us, we don't think outside the box because we're in groupthink mode, right? So the ability to come from the outside and partner with them and collaborate with them and real time drive these kind of capacity building initiatives have really, really worked. And that is the one thing I am so excited about our partnership, Charlotte, that we get to work with parents, we get to work with teachers, and we get to work with the youth.
Mhm.
And we get to touch all three layers of that. And we ourselves are teachers and parents and community members who are living side by side with all three. How does it make you feel, the work we do?
I am so, and excited is such not the right word to use, right? Because it is so fulfilling to know that you are not only, when I think about the three big industries and systems that need to be tackled, it is really the food industry globally, it is the education industry globally, and it is the healthcare industry globally. Those are my three big, and there are huge, huge, huge challenges amongst each of them individually. But I believe that we have everything that we need amongst the people on this planet to solve for that. And the structure that we need to put in place touches everything from youth to parent to teacher. So when I think about how I'm excited about this, it's that intersection is the future. It is the path forward. It is the nugget that needs to grow so that we can solve or find a new place to be within all of those three and the intersection of those. So yeah, I'm really super excited. I get super excited about the work that we're doing and super excited about the potential, because the youth of today have a ton of value to bring, and it is incumbent upon us to not hold them back, not create obstacles just because they've always been there, and not to, unlike when we, Cass, you and I were youth, we had to buck a system, right? We were told you have to work the system. It was really, really hard for us to move through. I think what we and I have learned is that I don't think it needs to be there just because I had to do it, right? That can just go away. So I think we are responsible, and incumbent upon us is the obligation to make sure that we are not those obstacles, rocks that stand in the path of progress any longer. And that's what I'm really, really excited about.
And that's so true, because you and I are not sitting here because we followed the path somebody else laid out. We are sitting here having this conversation because we are rebels in our own rights, right? We figured out a new way, a new path, and we took those paths that allowed us to short circuit the normal pathway. So it's incumbent upon us, having arrived here, to turn around and guide other people to create their own path. So Robin, before we bring this to a close, do you have any thoughts, any questions you want to bring forward?
There we go. There we go. Great conversation. Really, really great conversation. I was going to say, so if you were to talk to parents and, from a teacher's perspective, what do you think, what can parents do to support teachers in this role of helping these youth grow up to be responsible, good citizens and productive individuals? So what do you, in a nutshell, what do you think some of the more important things or most important things parents can do to support and enhance teachers and their efforts?
Yeah,
Amazing question. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's hard for each of us to say, what can the parents do to help the teachers? I think what we can control is what we see in our world. So the parents becoming more knowledgeable and aware of their role and acting upon that role is a place where parents can sort of change how they show up in this ecosystem of three, as we're talking about it. And I think that parents can offer to deliver their expertise in such a way as they become more aware of how to plug into this group a little bit better. It's literally what Cass and I are talking about. It's literally, can I come to the classroom? Can I share, how my work, what I do in my profession can really make this real for the students in your class. So for parents, it's about not only showing up differently as a parent within their family, but it is contributing those things to the educational system in such a way that they are positive influencers, that they are opening the eyes of the youth today, because each one of us has a different experience and each one of us will spark a light in a different youth. And I think that's really important for parents to get plugged in that way in the world of the teacher.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the wonderful question, Robin, and love that really practical answer, Charlotte. I will build on that. What I also see needed is parents looking at teachers as a collaborative stakeholder in the future of their child, right? So the youth that they are raising is also the youth the teacher is teaching. So stop thinking of teachers as glorified babysitters. They're actually human. Recognize it, see them, hear them, partner with them, and approach. We all know to do this at work. We know that every party who's engaged at work is a strategic stakeholder partner, and we need to collaborate. Bring that into the school and make the teacher the strategic partner, because when the youth see the parents and teachers engaging respectfully and having that stage set, then the students are in a better place to value what they are hearing from both ends. It makes that entire cycle, the loop of parent, teacher, and student or youth, that cycle complete with respect, right? So to me, the relationship building and the foundation for respect and the ability to be seen and heard in their own roles sets the stage for everything else that follows, because then the parent can come into the classroom and there is no animosity, there is no fear of, oh, you're overstepping into my territory. There is nothing territorial.
Absolutely. Agree with that 100%, Cass. Thank you for that build.
So I know we can talk about this for hours since we deliver this program over multiple days, but I am very happy and grateful that you took the time this morning to sit down and share this conversation with me so that we can put this out to the world and invite parents and teachers to engage with us so that we can equip them. And they in turn can go and equip their youth or invite us to come and equip their youth. As we bring this to a close, any closing thoughts or comments you have, Charlotte?
I think honestly, Cass, like you said, I could talk about this for hours. So I would say that I know parents are sometimes very hesitant to try new things, especially when it involves, the sort of how they engage with their children. What I would say is this is something that is not telling you what to do. It's not going to be blame oriented. It is truly about how to fill your cup first and how to help you be well positioned with a bit of, I'll call it structure, so that you are able to find the best solution for your child. Because we all know that parents probably see that best and first. And then how do you partner and look at that ecosystem a little differently? So I would encourage, especially the parents, to think about it that way. And I would encourage the teachers, honestly, to think about it that way too, because I know that they oftentimes, I wish parents were more involved, but then I hear when parents are involved, I'm not sure I want that much involvement. So think about it from the teacher perspective of also filling your cup first and then providing a structure for how this group sort of molds together such that we are all parts of the youth's development and upbringing. So that's what I wanted to make sure we all heard at the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And thank you so much, Robin. This has been an exciting conversation and a deeply meaningful conversation at the right time. And in closing, I want to take a moment and remind our teachers and parents, you are an integral part of not just the ecosystem of the youth, you're an integral part of the ecosystem of our society. And how you both fulfill your purpose, you each evolve, and you each remain relevant to make an impact on the lives that you are responsible for, and how seamlessly you're transforming is going to set the stage for the future of our youth and future for ourselves. And keeping in mind, this is not just a classroom subject matter STEM research assignment conversation. This is about developing the human mind and the human psychology, and alongside it, developing the skills and capabilities so that our humanity and our capability go side by side. Because in the age of technology, it's our humanity that is going to make the difference. The machine can do everything, but the machine cannot be human. And our differentiator calling card is our humanity. So how do we integrate all of this? And how do we build a future that behooves our children, our youth? And how comfortably can we retire and sit back and say, you know what? We did our part, now they are going to do what they need to do, and we can just enjoy. And that is the world Charlotte and I are trying to build. And that is the world we invite you to come and join us on. And for more questions or any insights that you need, feel free to reach us at Transform with Dr. Cass, and you will be able to reach Charlotte and I, and we will be happy to support you, your children, your school, your teachers, because guess what? We are a member of our community, and we are a member of your community. The lives we sustain are our own. Your youth, your children, your students are our future.